Hey guys, welcome back. Hopefully you had a good weekend. Got some new stuff to teach you today. We're going to talk a little bit about vertical angles. Before we do that though, I got a joke for you. What happens to a frog when it parks illegally? It gets towed. Towed. That's a good one. Okay, vertical angles. So, opposite angles formed by intersecting lines are called vertical angles. So I have two intersecting lines here. The angles that are opposite are like 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. These are what we call vertical angles. And it turns out that vertical angles are always congruent. Now this is a symbol that you may have seen before, but you may have forgot it. So I'm just going to remind you, this little equal sign with the little squiggly over the top means congruent. Basically it's like equals, but numbers are equal, things are congruent, right? So if I said that one desk equaled another desk, well, that doesn't really make sense exactly, but you probably understand what I mean. But I can say this desk is the same as this desk because things are the same, but numbers are equal. I could say the height of this desk is equal to the height of that desk because those are numbers. Right? I would measure the height in numbers. So when we talk about things, a lot of times we don't like to say they're equal, but when we talk about numbers, we use the equal sign. So we have this in math, we have this thing called congruent. It means the same. And so if I'm talking about one angle is the same as the other angle, I don't want to say equals because they're things, right? Things are not equal, things are the same. And so I say that this angle is congruent to this angle. Now I can talk about their measure, like if I get a protractor out and I measure and get 30 degrees here and 30 degrees here, then I can say the measure of their angles, is equal, because 30 degrees equals 30 degrees. But if I'm just talking about the angles themselves, I say congruent. Anyways, kind of a long explanation, but just remember when you see that, you're probably going to think equals and do the problem as if it were to mean equals. But us math guys, we like to be thorough when we look at all the details. And of course, then things are not equal. Things are the same. So we use the word congruent. Anyways, a long explanation for what that means. Don't get thrown by it. Just remember, things are the same. Numbers are equal. Okay, so vertical angles. I've put these in colors 2 and 4. They are going to be congruent angles. The measure of those angles is going to be equal. Same with 1 and 3. And so the type of problems that you're going to do today is just using this idea of congruent angles are equal to find the measure of some angles, right? And we're going to use something that we've talked about in the past as well. Remember a straight line, two angles that form a straight line are called supplementary angles, and they add up to 180 degrees. So we're also going to use that today. So straight lines, 180 degrees, and vertical angles are congruent, right? So we've got a problem here. This is a typical kind of problem that you might see. I'm telling you that angle 1 is 50 degrees. Let's say I think I'm going to use the blue here. So angle 1, 50 degrees. I need to find all the rest of the angles. Well, angle 3 is going to be pretty easy. Oh, let me talk about that too. So we have this kind of funny thing, we say congruent. Remember I talked about the angles themselves being congruent and the measure, the degrees of the angles is going to be equal. To show that we are talking about the measurement or how many degrees it is, we put this little m in front. This is the measure of angle 1. I'm looking for the measure of angle 2, angle 3, angle 4. So if I took my protractor out and measured it, I would get 50 degrees or whatever. We're not going to need to use protractors. We're going to use a little math to solve these. So here we go. I know this is 50 degrees. I know the vertical angles are always congruent. 3 is a vertical angle for 1. 50 degrees, piece of cake, right? 2 and 4. Now I know 2 and 4 are the same, but I don't know exactly what they are. But I can figure it out. Because straight line, I know this angle plus this angle has to be 180 degrees. So 50 plus something is 180. I can write out an equation if I want. 50 plus something equals 180. I'll go ahead and try to solve that using my algebra, but this is pretty easy. 50 plus 130 is 180. So I know angle 2, 130 degrees. If I know angle 2, I know angle 4 because they are vertical angles and they are always congruent, which means their measures are equal. Piece of cake. If you know one angle, you can find all of them. Vertical angles and 180 degree straight lines, right? That's the kinds of problems that you're going to do today. Now, there are going to be some other problems that are set up where maybe you have some expressions with it. Hey, a bell again. You're not out of class yet. I still got you for a little bit longer. So we may look at some problems that have some expressions in there. We still have to solve some equations, but I'm going to show you another example of that. Okay, so this problem is a little bit trickier. We're given that this angle is 47. This angle that is vertical to this one is an expression, 3x plus 2. And they're asking me to find the value of x and then to find the measure of all the angles, right? So we're going to use this idea of vertical angles being congruent or their measures being equal to set up a little equation right here. And when we solve this, we're going to say again that this is equal to this. So I'm going to write my equation, 3x plus 2 is the same as or equal to 47. Then I got a little two-step equation to solve. Good thing we practiced that last week, right? So here we go. Here's my sides. Remember, I'm trying to get x on one side, numbers on the other. That means this plus 2, gotta go. Subtract 2, that's gone. Whatever you do to one side, you gotta do to the other. I'm left with 3x equals 47 minus 2. 45. All right, next step, I got to get x by itself. We're going to divide by 3 here. Number next to a letter means times. So I'm going to divide, cancel it out, just leaves x. Whatever I do to one side, do to the other. 45 divided by 3 is 15. There we go, x equals 15. So find the value of x. Done. Find the measure of all the angles. Well, so if I plug 15 in for x, I get 3 times 15 is 45, plus 2 is 47. Great, I already knew that was 47, right? So the angle again here is 47 degrees. And then I can solve for these because remember, straight lines, right? And so I know that this plus 47 has to equal 180. I'm going to write that out so that you can see it. I know that this missing piece, we'll call it question mark. Question mark plus 47 is supposed to equal 180 degrees. Now, maybe you can do that in your head, maybe whatever, or you can solve this like an equation. Basically, I just need to subtract the 47 from 180, and I will have my answer. Again, maybe you can do that in your head, maybe you need to punch down a calculator, maybe you need to solve it like an equation. Subtract 47, subtract 47. Let's see, 47, that's 3 more to get to 50, so that would be 130, and 3 more. 180 minus 47, 133. My question mark here, 133 degrees. That means this guy also 133 degrees because vertical angles, right? Vertical angles always congruent. So find the measure of all the angles. 47, 47, 133, 133. Done. Easy cheesy. Okay, so you've got a few problems to do today. Remember, vertical angles are equal. If you have to set up an equation to solve, if you're looking for x, pay attention. Sometimes the directions say to solve for x or find the value of x. Sometimes they say to find the angle. Sometimes both, right? Sometimes when you solve for x, if you don't know what the other angle is, maybe you've got two expressions that you're solving for, you may have to plug that number in for x and actually figure out what that angle is, right? So hopefully it goes okay, and hopefully that was helpful.